Ohio State finally parts ways with Chris Holtmann, letting in the opportunity for a new era to begin with Ohio State basketball. And I really thought this fire probably should have been made after the loss in Ann Arbor against Michigan a month and a half back. But they decided to do it after the Wisconsin game, just kind of a rough game where you ran into a similar situation that you have this entire year. Close game at half, and then the other team just breaks away from you in the second. Even when they would have a big lead going into halftime, the other team would find a way to come back or break away from you. That's just what it was. And I think a lot of the big issues with Chris Holtmann was the stagnant offense. Because I believe that, the players wanted to play for him, and I think they really liked Chris Holtmann. He brought in good recruiting classes. He was a good recruiter. But it really is about what you do on the court. And, he kept stressing that it was a young team and all that. And be that as it may, almost every team in college basketball is what you call a young team. If you have a good talent, they're going to go pro. That's just the way that NCAA basketball works. That's just how it works. People don't stick around for a long time like they used to back in the day. There's too much opportunity out there, so they're going to go. And, if you wanted to put together a really veteran team, he could have went to the transfer portal and brought in a bunch of more older guys. He could have done this. And you have veteran presence that should be enough to take the load off these younger guys. Jameson Battle is an older dude that they brought in. And Zed Key, it feels like he's been there for like 50 years. So you had that at your disposal, and there still just weren't results. He was a great non-conference coach. I feel like he would always, even this team, this is a team that's beat Alabama, a team that's definitely a tournament team, and they're on the up and up recently. So a lot of positive things were done at certain stretches with this team. He just, for some reason, whatever it was, the month of January wasn't his, and Big Ten play just wasn't his. Couldn't succeed in it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if that they weren't mentally there enough to compete in these games, or if they gotten too much in their own head. Because the same thing would happen every year, where you'd start off the first couple Big Ten games doing pretty good, and then you'd lose like one game in a rough situation, and then it would just get in their heads for other games. Then they couldn't beat anybody. So a rough 10-year, I would say, for Chris Holtmann. The height was probably the going to the Big Ten tournament championship game and eventually losing to Oral Roberts, and that was probably the height. He won. I think you might have won 2 or 3 tournament games in total here at Ohio State. Never went to a Sweet 16. So his legacy here is going to be more so remembered as it falling apart than good that he did, because there's really just not, with what he was being paid, with what was going on, with the the support that he was getting, there just really wasn't a lot. And then you ask the question, where does Ohio State basketball go from here? And I think you're going to be looking at a new roster next year, because some of these guys are going to jump. They're Chris Holtmann guys. They're not going to be here. And you know what? That's fine. Sometimes the team needs to retool. And whoever they bring in, they have to be very careful with the selection, because this basketball team overall is kind of teetering right now, and they need to make a decision to get back to relevance, something that just these past 2 years, it hasn't been there. They haven't been in the top 25 rankings once this season, which is just something that usually doesn't happen for Ohio State basketball. They're always at least in the 20s at one point, but not this year. Did not hit the rankings. So you're at a stretch right now where you got to make a right decision on a head coach. You got to bring in somebody. And if I'm them, I'm bringing in somebody that has kind of an opposite philosophy as Chris Holtmann. Find something different. We'll see. It will become more clear after the season what coaches are out there, who's going to be out there. But this is the end of the era of Chris Holtmann as we know it. And I think that it was time that they made this move. I don't think there's anything more you could do. I could have seen them wait until the end of the year, but it was just getting really embarrassing to a point where you had to make a change.